Yeah, I would say so. This is one of the first concepts I kind of introduced to users is try to identify if I put up a visual on the page, let's identify what is the filter context of the individual data points that we see. So this is a very early concept I'm trying to draw forward. We may not be going into all the nuances of using the filter pane to adjust a measure and filtering things, but I do try to get people to mentally think about this as this is pivotal. Because a lot of times what I feel like the pattern is you build some measures, you build a visual, don't quite get what you want, and you go back and you kind of remodel some data. Either you change the shape of the data so it better fits the visual, or you add new measures to get the output that you want. So I always kind of talk about it as it's like a seesaw, right? You spend some time doing the measure building, and then you spend some time visual building and report building, and then you go back and say you make some changes. You kind of teeter totter back and forth between measures and then making reports and more measures and model changes, and then going back and forth. But filter context is so key that this is an early concept that we adjust and we talk about very early in our process. Did it answer your question?
It did.
Where do you think it fits, Seth? Do you think this is like a core element here, or do you think this is fitting? Would you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to hit the foundations underneath it first, right? Like all of the what you just described, like how do you build a model? What are the relationships between, the tables? Hopefully they're facts and dimensions, right? Like how complex is the model versus a simple model,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what does that do for some of the functions that you're building related to even, understanding filter context and the different ways we can manipulate. And I think that's ultimately the value in here is not necessarily just saying, hey, what I'm presenting is right or wrong, right? Or I don't understand it. It's I'm given the constructs of a bunch of decisions are leading up to this point. How do I manipulate this function to produce the results that I want? Because there is a ton of flexibility in DAX that allows us to, and what I love about the article here is walks into those areas where if you're grasping this idea of filter context, how do we manipulate that context, right? Like I can do that specifically in these areas with such a, with the DAX language. But it's where you don't have the fundamentals down, where I think people start tripping, like going back and forth between the ways you can manipulate things, not understanding how to manipulate, like what they're doing.